The following program is part of Cable in the Classroom, a free service of the cable telecommunications industry and your local cable company.
Hi, I'm Reese Davis. ESPN is proud to present Sportsfigures commercial free. It's where science and math meet sports. Today, Olympic skater Sasha Cohen puts the freeze on our Marissa Copeland.
A little ice, please.
Sportsfigures, put your brain in the game.
Let's say you wanted to build a skating rink right here. No problem, right? You could just throw water on the ground and you'd be in business. The temperature here is negative 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Whoa, water would freeze pretty fast. Of course, you might have a little trouble getting spectators to show.
Figure skating events happen all over the world, in cold and warm climates. That's a skating rink behind me. There's ice in there. But out here, it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So how do they do it? How do they ice skate in Southern California? It's easy, right? Like a refrigerator. You just freeze the water. Nowadays, we take refrigerators for granted. Back in the old days,
They used to cut blocks of ice from frozen lakes in the winter and store them.
primitive, right? But thanks to science, we can now have ice anywhere, anytime. But how does it work? How do we make ice? It's easy to make things warm, right? You just rub your hands together and you have heat. You can just burn something and you have heat. And you can use that object to make something else hot. But let's say you have a warm soda. And you want to make it cold, right? Well, you could add ice. I mean, that's a good way to cool things off. Put them in contact with a colder object. If you had ice. That's Sasha Cohen. She's on the U.S. International Figure Skating team and won silver at the Nationals. She also just represented the U.S. in 2 international competitions and won gold at both. She's poised to be on the U.S. Olympic team. She spends a lot of time on the ice. But does she know how to make it? Sasha! Sasha! Ice is pretty important to you, right?
Yeah, it'd be hard to skate without it.
So how do they do it? How do they make ice?
Well, they have to flood the floor with water first and then get it down below freezing and ice.
Ah, so you just add cold.
Well, actually, you can't do that. You have to remove the heat from the water.
Remove the heat. Well, how do you do that?
Well, you have to understand heat.
Okay, so what is heat?
Heat is a transfer of energy.
Sasha!
What is this mysterious form of energy called heat?
This boiling water is hot. This ice is cold. Now, what that means on a microscopic level is that the molecules in this water are moving really quickly. So, a lot of kinetic energy. The molecules in the ice are moving too, but they're moving really slowly. So, less kinetic energy. The molecules that make up the things in our world are always moving. Always. So everything has what we call internal energy. Hello, molecules. Hello? To make ice, we have to make the water cold, right? And to do that, we have to remove the internal energy, slow the molecules down. See, hot and cold are just how we experience differences in internal energy. Temperature is related to the kinetic energy of the molecules.
Fast electronic cooking employs microwaves.
That's how a microwave oven works. It excites the molecules inside the food with microwaves, gets them moving, and the food gets hot. So, if we want to compare the kinetic energies of their molecules, we can compare their temperatures.
But just because something's got a high internal energy, that's not heat. Not to a scientist anyway. Remember, heat is a transfer of energy.
Yeah, I was just getting to that. See, if something has a high internal energy, that means that the molecules are moving really fast.
But that internal energy is not heat until it's in the process of transferring from one object to another. This hot plate is hot. There's a lot of kinetic energy in the molecules of this heating coil, but it's not heat until it transfers that energy, like to the air above it or to my hand. Now it's heat. It transferred the energy from the heating coil to my hand, and it hurt. If I put this block of ice on the ice, it wouldn't melt, right? There's no exchange of kinetic energy because there's no difference in temperature. There's no exchange of heat. And what does that tell us about heat?
In order for heat to be exchanged, there has to be a temperature difference.
And what is it called when heat is exchanged?
That's called thermal energy.
And what would Brian Boitano do?
He'd make a plan and follow through.
Yeah. We all know that thermal energy can do work. The steam is doing work on the kettle. It's moving the lid. The thermal energy is being transferred to mechanical energy. That's how steam engines work, right? Just like the tea kettle lid, the pistons move back and forth, moving these arms which turn the wheels. The energy is conserved. It just transfers from one form to the other. So what does any of this have to do with making ice? Okay, Sasha, so we only get thermal energy, heat, when the internal energy transits from one object to another.
That's what I was saying. Heat is a transfer of energy. And in order for the energy to transfer, there has to be a difference between the two objects.
Right. The temperature.
If my hand were just as hot as a hot plate, there'd be no transfer of energy.
Now here's something totally cool we know about this transfer of energy. Let's say that Nancy is a hot object. She has a lot of kinetic energy. Her molecules are moving around. And Jackie is a cool object. Her molecules are moving more slowly. Now, when they come into contact, Nancy's slowed down. She transferred some of her kinetic energy to Jackie. Nancy is cooler now. Jackie is warmer now. But the thing to remember is that high kinetic energy molecules transfer some of their energy to low kinetic energy molecules. Thermodynamics. Thermo from the Greek word for heat, dynamics for the Greek word for energy. Heat, energy. The laws of thermodynamics are laws about the way heat energy is going to behave. Okay, obviously the Greeks weren't spending a lot of time on skating rinks. Whew. And that takes us to the second law of thermodynamics, which says simply that thermal energy transits naturally from objects with greater temperature to objects with lower temperature. Ooh, ow. You can think about the second law this way. If we put an ice cube on hot cement, the ice cube gets hotter, it melts, and the cement gets cooler. Energy would still be conserved if the water got colder and the cement hotter, but it never happens that way. It just doesn't. That's the second law. Is your refrigerator running? You better go catch it. To get the water to freeze in here, you have to remove the kinetic energy. Get the water cooler and cooler until it freezes. It's like running a hot plate backwards. Where's the reverse on this thing? Out here, it's 80 degrees. In there, it's 40 degrees, and the ice is below freezing. To do that, they must be taking heat from in there and transferring it out here. But the kinetic energy is so much greater out here. I mean, it's hot out here. Sasha, that seems like it would violate the second law because it's colder in here. There's less kinetic energy.
Well, to get cool to transfer towards hot, you need a heat pump.
A heat pump?
Think of it like a water pump or an air pump.
When you want to get water to flow against gravity, you have to use a pump, right? Well, for heat, you do the same thing. You have to pump it against its natural direction. Ever stand on the wrong side of an air conditioner? An air conditioner is a heat pump. It does work by pumping kinetic energy against its natural direction. It gets the energy to do this from electricity. And it's the same with the machinery that makes the skating rink ice. The machinery is taking heat, thermal energy, from the water and pumping it here where it's about 80 degrees. It's moving the heat. See that guy? He's the Iceman. He's Dominic, and he makes the ice. How do you make the ice here? What makes it work?
Well, underneath the ice is the network of piping which holds the refrigerant, and that keeps the ice cold. These are the compressors that compress the refrigerant before it's sent back to the pipes underneath the ice. After leaving the compressors, the refrigerant flows up here where it releases its heat to the air. Underneath the cement here is the expansion valve where the refrigerant is vaporized, and from here it's forced throughout the network of piping underneath the ice.
Well, it's not much to look at. I mean, it's basically just a long pipe and a compressor and a valve.
Basically.
Hey, Sasha, did you ever use this?
It's canned air.
Yeah, but inside it's liquid air. See, you can hear it. And did you ever notice what happens to the valve when you touch it?
It gets really cold, right?
Yeah. I mean, that right there is the beginning of how you make ice. A liquid turning to gas, just like water turned to steam. Before, when we made water turn into steam, we added heat. But where does the heat in this fire extinguisher come from? From the liquid CO2 inside. When the CO2 liquid passes through this tiny little valve, some of its internal energy, heat, gets used up to vaporize it, and it comes out cold. The ice ring's big expansion valve is just like the little valve in this can here. The liquid in the cooling system vaporizes as it passes through the valve, and it cools in the process. That means that flowing through these pipes under here is a very, very cold vapor. Now, the water is warmer, so the kinetic energy in the warm water is being transferred to the vapor in the pipes. That's second law, right? This compressor here keeps the chemical moving through the system. It does the work needed to get the heat moving the wrong way. It takes energy from electricity to push the vapor through the condenser. The condenser turns the vapor back into a liquid. And in doing that, the liquid gains kinetic energy. It gets hotter. The liquid in these pipes is now very hot. It's hotter than the 80 degrees out here. So, second law again. The greater kinetic energy in the pipes flows to the lesser kinetic energy out here in the air. And they use fins, fans, sometimes cool liquid to extract as much of the heat as possible before it reaches the expansion valve to start all over again. The chemical makes a big loop, evaporating and cooling, taking kinetic energy from the water, being condensed and transferring heat to the environment outside. And during each cycle, heat is transferred from the water, cooling it until it freezes. And voila, ice. It's so cool. It's cold, actually. So we learned that thermodynamics is how heat behaves, and heat is the transfer of kinetic energy. The first law of thermodynamics states that thermal energy can be transferred, but is neither created nor destroyed. And the second law states that objects with greater kinetic energy will transfer energy to objects with lesser kinetic energy. Well, that's it. We'd like to thank Sasha Cohen and Dominic the Iceman and our students, Nancy, Jackie, Alexis, and Rebecca, for helping us out here today on ESPN Sports Figures Ice Ain't Easy. Whew, so hot in here.
Hey, this may look like we're just having fun, but actually it's really serious business. What we're doing is making us healthier, stronger, feel better, and look better. Yeah, I know it looks like we're just playing. That's the whole point. We are just playing. Take that. Woo! Get together with friends. Run, jump, scream, yell, be crazy, do whatever. It's going to be a great aerobic workout. But remember, always be safe. See, you don't need rules or somebody to tell you what to do. You're in charge. And you know what's one of the best things you can do? That's right, laughing. It's a great workout for your lungs and your mind. So grab a few friends and run around, not because it's good for you, but because it's fun. Remember, it doesn't matter what you play, just play your way.
I'd like to thank today's athletes for donating their time to help put your brain in the game. I'm Reese Davis, and we'll see you next time on Sports Figures.
ESPN Sports Figures is presented commercial-free for educators to tape and use in the classroom.
For a free teacher's curriculum, to order the Sports Figures series, or if you have questions or comments,
visit our website at espnsportsfigures.com.
You can also call 1-800-565-0452.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to espn.com.
Sports Figures. Put your brain in the game.
The preceding program is part of Cable in the Classroom, a free service of the cable telecommunications industry and your local cable company.